Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to the final exam in English 268. So your job today is to have a donut if you would like. And if you need to dash out to wash your hands afterward, I understand. And to hang out, I think we will be here an hour. Let's just say we will. That's wrong. But in one hour, we will all be on our way, okay, to our next thing. It is such a busy time of year. I don't need to tell you guys this. I feel extraordinarily thankful to our panelists who have come from all over the place to talk just briefly, each of them, about their career journey. After we give you a semester of health humanities, I just feel like part of what we wanted to open your eyes to is a way of thinking about health, healing, wellness, injury, mortality, transcendence, a way of thinking about all of these things that is not just through a biomedical lens, but through the lens of the arts and the humanities. But to some extent, I know a lot of you have talked with me about this to say, well, what do I do now? So how do I think about my career trajectory? What are the opportunities for people interested in health humanities? So one thing to say is certainly that medical schools, and in particular UNC Medical School, has started a new program. It's utterly transformed its curriculum to include the humanities, the arts, and philosophy. So even those of you who still are thinking of pursuing a career in medicine, it's just really worth it for you to know about the way medical schools themselves are transforming. And I'm hoping that I taught with Tom, or I am teaching with Tom Linden in the medical school. And perhaps you can talk briefly about that, as well as he's got 6 other things to speak about. But anyway, we have this amazing panel of people who have quirky and interesting career paths. They are still on these paths and branching in really interesting ways. But what's exciting about the people who are going to speak with us is just the ways they remain curious, they remain exploratory in all sorts of ways. And they're at different points in their career paths. So we'll go through our panelists, each having roughly 5 minutes, which is nothing, to talk about their lives, but they will nonetheless do so because I've asked them to. And then after that, so that'll be about half an hour. And then I'd say for about 15 minutes, we'll open up the conversation. And I just really love you guys to ask anything and everything of our panelists, to find out more about them, find out their ideas, get their email addresses so you can, talk to them further. And then that'll be it. So with that in mind, any questions? Okay, thanks.
All right. Morning, everybody. You all should know me pretty well by now. But I'll quickly just kind of state or remind you where I'm at and then quickly how I got there. So I'm in my 3rd year in the PhD program in English here. And for those of you who don't know or can't guess, I'm very interested in trauma. That's why Professor Thrailkill let me do the lecture on trauma this semester. But that and health humanities as well. So this course has been a perfect opportunity for me in a lot of ways. When I entered undergrad, I knew that I wanted to major in English. I knew that I wanted to teach English at the college or university level. I also knew I had absolutely no interest in science or medicine because my experience had been memorizing the periodic table of elements, memorizing bones or the parts of a cell, or counting leaves as they grew in a test tube or something like that. So I've been doing a lot of introspection and looking back lately to kind of see how I got here. Because if you had told me even in my freshman year, like that I would be specializing in trauma and health humanities, I would think you were nuts. I had absolutely no interest in it. But through undergrad, and honestly, my science courses in undergrad didn't change that. But a few English courses, especially like this course in postmodern literary theory, we started looking briefly at the science of what's going on in the human body as we perceive things. And then getting into what are those implications for how we communicate things and represent things. And that kind of blew my mind. And I remember my friends just found me in the calf one day, sitting there, like not eating, just kind of staring into space, like, what's wrong? And I was like, my life just changed. Like this text just changed the way I think about how we perceive reality and let's communicate reality. But I still didn't realize like where I was going yet. I graduated and went into a master's program because that's the next step. And the joke, what do you do with a master's degree? You hopefully get into a PhD program. That's about it. So I was at DePaul for 2 years. Again, knowing that I wanted to focus on like American Lit, 20th century. And then eventually I took a break from academia. I did a lot of freelance writing and tutoring. And I'll skip. I ghost wrote a book on financial planning, which is terrible and boring, and I don't recommend ever doing that. If you fall asleep while you're writing something, you know it's not good. But as I was getting ready to apply to PhD programs, I realized I need to have a concentration. So I looked back at all the papers that I had found most productive, most intellectually stimulating. And I was like, how do I group this? What is it that I'm drawn towards? How do I categorize that? And I realized even looking further back into undergrad or the creative writing I'd done in undergrad, these trends of this concern with embodiment, how we represent the body, our relationship with the body, and also just trauma. That is kind of the all-encompassing term. And then I did more research and realized, oh, that's actually a thing. How lucky for me. So I guess I'm headed in the right direction. And yeah, that got me here. And so I've finished my coursework last spring and just had a very fruitful meeting 2 days ago with Professor Thrailkill and the rest of my committee, going through a list of everything I'm going to be taking, studying in my exams. But for me, I definitely use like the science of the body and trauma to inform my scholarship. But at the same, and also I use it though to inform, at least I've tried to, my teaching, my pedagogy. I think it's made me a more compassionate, open-minded, careful instructor. Definitely a lot. I pity my English 105 students from 2 years ago when I didn't know what I was doing. But then also, you know, I think some of you were at my talk at the Health Humanities Grand Rounds on the course I co-teach in the summers. That's mostly a public health course. And Jonathan, the other instructor, that's much more in his wheelhouse and like technical filmmaking skills. But I like to, it's a cross-directional thing. So it's not just using trauma to inform literary scholarship, but also bringing the humanities into that course, thinking through data can seem really objective. English 105, we emphasize natural sciences, it's all objective, but data is still something that's represented and has to be interpreted, or looking at, again, the holistic, the whole personhood of the people we're interviewing, issues, ethical issues of representation. So for me, it's been a really fruitful kind of back and forth with combining these two fields.
Okay, thanks for coming out, everybody. And seriously, there are too many donuts left. Bring them to your room.